Welcome back to Cheeky Mare Stitches. Today I am going to show you what I'm stitching today. I am doing the Bali Wedding Star quilt by Timeless Treasures, or quiltwork at quiltworks.com, and it's a Judy Niemeyer quilt, and I am just doing the wall hanging size for my brother's wedding. And let's make sure that we had it in screen here. Yep. So I'm just doing the wall hanging size. So it's a 3x3 ring. And again, it was the Bali Wedding Star by Timeless Treasures. And there are a lot of tutorials on how to piece the rings, which I have already done. I did do it a little differently. I wanted the rings to look like they were flowing. So you were supposed to make 24 of these identically, and I disagreed with that. So I'm doing 24 or 12 this way. No, it's 24 this way and 24 with the dark starting. So we'll see how that works in the end. But anyway, there's a lot of tutorials online to show you how to piece the strips, but there aren't as many tutorials on how to piece the, what are these called, orange peels, or the corners like this. So, and I do it a little differently, and I think probably the reason why there's no tutorials on it is because Judy Niemeyer does give you like cutting templates, but I don't really like the cutting templates. I hate I hate foundation paper piecing. I like the quilts, that's why I'm doing it, but I don't really like doing it. And the Judy Niemeyer, although very talented, and if it's your thing, you go for it, she wants you to cut out templates that are like just a little bigger than the pieces here. And I just want to die when I see that, because I hate cutting. Cutting's my least favorite part. So if I can minimize it, I'm going to. And yes, my quilt has a little bit more waste. My technique has a little bit more waste, but the pieces are big enough that I can use most of them for my crumb quilts. So that is what I'm going to do. All right, so instead of cutting out the template and then cutting the template out of the fabric, I cut a 1.5 inch strip of each of my two colors. There is a medium and a dark, medium and dark, and I put them right sides together. And I have batiks, so I don't really care either way, and you can't really tell which one's the right side and which one's the wrong side, which is my favorite way to foundation paper piece. I don't really like batiks. They are beautiful, but I don't really like the feel of them. But when I am foundation paper piecing, I do like using them because most of the time it's hard to tell. Anyway, so you put them right sides together, and then you put your piece just a little, make sure there's a little bit of overlap there. And I use the light and I look through the paper, and there's a line right here. There's a dotted line right here, which is your 1/4 inch line. And I line up the edge of the fabric with the seam line, with the seam allowance line. And then I sew down to the recommended stopping point. And my back stitch is broken and I'm not willing to fix it, so I just use the fix button on my machine and it takes a few stitches in place. And then I lift up and I trim away, maybe a ½ inch away from where maybe 3/4 of an inch from where I stopped. So then I open it up and finger press it. And this is what my piece looks like before I trim. And that easily covers the 1½ inch strip, easily covers my seam allowance at the widest part for these two pieces. You can, if you're worried, you can do a 2-inch strip, which I did here. But I noticed that it was kind of overkill, so then I dropped it down to 1½ inch strips. So let me sew those, and then we'll go over. Then you will just do a English or a foundation paper piecing. You'll fold on the next seam line, and you can rip off the paper a little bit at this place here, so you can get all the way to where you need to fold it. And then you trim a 1/4 inch off, and then you're ready to sew the next piece on. So let me finish up these, and then I will come back with the background. Okay, so I have 6 of my orange peels trimmed, and to trim it, I folded it over on this line here with a piece of cardstock. And you can see here that I kind of ripped this piece of paper. That's okay. That's where the seam was, to get all of the seams in. There's a stitch line here, but to get the fold for this, what I did was I folded over and then kind of tugged a little bit so that it kept the seam line, the actual stitching, connected. But the paper doesn't matter. You're going to rip the paper off anyway. So I have trimmed it. So now I am ready for the next unit, which is this unit here. And Judy Niemeyer also has a template for this piece, and I don't want to spend more time cutting than I need to. So I cut a 2½ inch strip from my background fabric. I'm lining it up with my 1/4 inch that I trimmed away from the folded seam line. And I'm making sure that the white, or my background, is above the paper. Okay. Now, you have to cut off more than a ½ inch of clearance after that, because when you fold this strip over, when you open it up, the fabric's got to finish past this point here. So it's probably about 2½ inches down from the end of your seam. And then just trim that. And as you can see, I've got enough white space all the way around so that when I fold this next seam over and do a 1/4 inch, there'll be enough for my next background piece. So, and these 2½ inch strips could probably be a little less. Could probably be 2 inches instead of 2½. I'll leave that up to you. I did get 6 orange peels. I got 6 orange peels of the first two colors with one strip of each color. So I would need a total of 4 widths of fabric strips for each of the first two colors. I'll let you know how many I get from one strip of the background when I come back with you. Okay, so I got 6 orange peels out of one 2.5 inch strip, and I've decided that 2.5 is a little big. There's a lot of extra over here, so I'm gonna try a 2 inch for the other side. I've trimmed by folding back, and I've popped the paper off the seam here so that it'll get a nice clean edge. I'm going to line up the 2 inch strip here, making sure that it overlaps enough to be above the seam, which it does. Now I'm going to take a few stitches, and then I'm going to lift up and make sure that the rest of the cut fabric is in line with the edge of the strip. And I'm going to fold it over and turn it over and make sure that my fabric covers all of the orange peel. And it does. So it looks like a 2 inch strip would work for both. So I'm using a 1.5 inch strip for the middle two colors and a 2 inch strip for the background. I am going to cut it past the point here. And now finish those up, and then we'll be able to trim. I can do that now, actually, since I've already got the video going. So to make sure that I get an accurate trim, I take this Soline glue that I use for English paper piecing, and I just draw a little line of glue between the paper and the background, getting the points so that it stays nice and flat, like that. And then I can come in with my scissors and cut on the cut line, which is right here. I kind of use my fingers to pull the fabric gently, don't stretch it. See how it kind of, there was some slack in the fabric. So I just need to go back and recut that part. But it doesn't really matter on the orange peels because I keep the paper on the orange peels until I'm completely done with putting both arcs on there. And then you can cut the engineered corners using a rotary cutter may give you a little bit better cut. All right, so there is my finished orange peel. As you can see, I have removed the paper from the arc, and I've kept the orange peel on there so that I know where my seam line is. That may come to bite me when I go to put this arc on, but we'll see. All right, so now I can show you how I put on my arcs. I can take the paper off here. So I'm starting with the arc that doesn't have the cornerstones on it. So my cornerstones are attached Here are the cornerstones, here, the green. My cornerstones are attached to the blue arcs, and I don't have one within arm's reach, or else I'd get one. So I'm always going to be putting the pinky purple ombre on the orange peels. And the way I do that is I use my So-Lang glue. I fold the orange peel in half like this to get the halfway point, and the accent colors are always on my left. Now I take the arc and my So-Lang glue, and I put a little dab at each of the seams within the 1/4 inch seam line, and then on the corners. So I think you should be able to see the yellow glue. All right. And I take the middle seam and I put it right on top of that folded mark that I made. And then I go over and I put the engineered corner onto the corner of the orange peel. And then I take each seam and kind of work it in and use the glue as my pins. So there's half of it done. And if you want to pin more, that's fine. I'm happy with the results that I get this way. So then I go over and I match the other corner, and then match, and then just work the other seams in. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You'll forgive my little bird's nest over here. So that's what it looks like when I'm done gluing it. And then I turn it over and sew from the paper side so I can see where my seam line needs to be. And I do kind of flatten the seams as I go from the back. Alrighty, then you can turn it over and fold the arc over. And there you go. Corners match. There's no tucks anywhere. I have had a few times where there have been some tucks and I've just seam ripped a little bit around it and spread it out more evenly. And sewed it again. So that is your arc. And eventually they'll all look like this. And then you can put your rings together once all of the arcs or all the orange peels are together. So those are my tutorials on how to piece the orange peels. Okay, so I made a mistake when I told you how to always position your orange peels. I said to always put them on the left, but that's not always true so it was supposed to be on the left based on the pink, which this one is the opposite of that. And what I figured out was because I modified the pattern so that the arcs will go light to dark and then dark to light. Let's see if I can find one here. Like this. The arcs are going to go like this, which is opposite of the pattern because the pattern just has you do the jelly rolls in order. They're not telling you to, it's more random than I'm actually trying to make it look kind of like a double wedding ring with like the gold star in the middle. So I modified my pattern, and when you modify your pattern, sometimes you come across mistakes that you didn't think about happening when you don't follow the pattern word for word. And that's fine. I had to rip out a few seams but it's perfectly fine now. So what I discovered was I needed to put the gold towards the white or the lighter shades. And that's my rule now. So now this one will be like horizontal, and this one will be vertical. But the way I had them before, this one's horizontal. The way I had them before was the greens would be all in the same area. The dark greens would all be in the same area if I made the stars, the star legs, go that way. So if I wanted a 4-patch, like I've got here, if I wanted a 4-patch like I've got here that had the star legs, I needed to make sure that my star legs were always by the lighter fabric. So that means that for some of the arcs, the star leg is on the left, like I told you it should be. So with these, it is on the left. But with the opposite, and you can see this is one of the ones I ripped out, for the opposite, the star legs need to go over here and be close to the light fabrics. So I am now putting all these together. I hope you enjoyed the video, and join me for the next one when I piece the corner pieces. This. And then put the quilt together fully. That is all for today. There's a little tuck here. I could pick that out and re-sew it, but I don't think I will. Please like and subscribe if you like my content, and share to other quilters that you know. It would really help me out. I am trying to get 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And I hope that my future sister-in-law, and my brother really enjoy this wall hanging, and that it symbolizes the beauty of their marriage in the future. Well, have a good day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.